that works. Can anybody hear us now? It's kind of echoey.
We can hear you.
But it's echoey.
Turn the audio off on the.
This one?
The one that wasn't working.
There's nothing there.
There should be a mute button. Just mute it on the one that wasn't working.
How about now? No, still echoey. I'm muted on this computer.
I don't think it's the mute, it's the sound itself. Yeah, the microphone. Right, so you have to make it like totally quiet.
But which volume? There's like 7 different volumes.
Yeah, pick one, see what happens. Highly technical, pick one.
I've muted all of them. That's the problem.
It's yeah.
Can you do me a favor?
Oh, tech support's here.
Can you move your mouse? Can you hit the up arrow?
Oh, yes.
And we want the owl. If the owl isn't here for a microphone, oh, it's up on the top. Okay. Try something else.
Try this one.
Yeah, unmute.
Now go back to the owl.
Oh, but now that wasn't happening before.
But that's fine. I'm gonna go back to the owl. Hello? Okay, so it's not back to all.
Maybe I'll do this.
You need, yeah, do that.
How about now? No echo. Can people
No
hear us?
echo. Sounds good.
Thank you, tech support. I just want to state for the record, that's never happened before. Always happens on the day you don't want it to. Okay, and you still have a few more joining, it looks like. Okay, we can hear now. Holland is here. Holland, can you just unmute so I can confirm that you can hear us and we can hear you?
Yeah, I have a sore throat, but I can hear you.
Okay. I'm just looking for Tim, our other alternate. But I don't see him. I'm just gonna send him a quick text and then we'll get started. Thank you for your patience, everybody. And the first select woman. There's one select person back there, okay? Let's see. Tim. Find the agenda. All right, I'll call the order to the meeting to order at 7:06 p.m. Oh, and Tim, our alternate, is joining. First item on the agenda is call to order. So we'll start with me, Christina Davis. I am present. Pam Summers.
Here.
Paul Varga.
Here.
Judy Austin. Here. Keith Lipker.
Here.
Holland Love.
I'm here.
Thank you. Tim Rhodes.
I'm here.
Thank you, Tim. Angie DeSanto is not present. And Hugh McKenzie, our third alternate, is not present. Last meeting we seated Holland, so this meeting I will seat Tim for Angie DeSanto. All right, next item, communications. So I got a communication from Region 19, confirming that their latest number is a 9.56% increase. It's not a final number, but it is an adjustment down in the right direction. So I got that confirmed today. I also communicated back and forth with our assessor, Lynn, just to make sure that all the numbers that we're using to base our calculations are accurate. I should ask Catherine, did the Board of Selectmen consider and vote on the adjustment to the motor vehicles valuation?
Yes, we decided to go with the local option.
Okay, so the numbers in the mill rate calculation reflect that adjustment. I got a line item budget from the Board of Ed reflecting what was presented last week. And I received documents from the first select woman with some adjustments that I'm sure we'll go over this evening. So I think that's everything for communications. In terms of the next item on the agenda, we have approved minutes from the regular meeting, March 13th. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, anybody second that? All right, any edits? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Aye.
Keith abstains. Tim, did you abstain?
Yes, I abstained. I wasn't
Okay,
present the
so
last meeting.
we had two abstentions. Keith and Tim both were not present at that meeting. Hi, Sherry.
Hello.
All right. Next on the agenda is public comment. We will limit comment to 2 minutes per person like we did last week. Just a reminder, we don't have another public comment on the agenda, so if you do want to speak, now is the time to speak. And like last week, we'll start with people in the room and then we'll move to people on Zoom. So with that, would anybody in the audience this evening like to speak? Go right ahead and remind me of your name.
My name is Dave Laporte, I'm on James Road. I am a member of the Ashford Fire Department and I'm also part of the paid staff. But I am speaking to someone who has been with the fire department for 20 years. And have seen where we were and where we are now. And there is no going back. It would be absolutely impossible. What we have now is really kind of minimal. We get by, but really, if pie in the sky, we were to ask for what we want, what we really need to get by, it would start rivaling really. So we get by with really well with what we have, but it's bare minimum. And taking anything away from that would be bad. So I am voicing my opposition to any cut to the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Go right ahead.
Hi, Rob Chernick, 50-year member of the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department, and I live up on Bevington Road. I think the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department's budget has always been reasonable, and our budget that's been put in over the years that I've been in the department, I think has been one of the fairest budgets. And we weren't asking for a lot, but just to meet the criteria for the training and the equipment and so on. So I think the department deserves the budget that we're asking for. And it's a great department. Like I said, I got 50 years with them, and it's a family. And I think, we serve the town very well. And, I've seen a lot over the years. And, it just seems like sometimes folks just expect you to be there. They really don't know about the fire department, but, we're there for you. We're there for the other communities, mutual aid to other towns. We're a good organization, and I'm thinking back to 75 when I joined. And the family that I've created from that. I think we're deserving of what we're asking for. And, just hope the town doesn't forget us. We have a lot of new people in town. Maybe they don't know about the fire department, but, we've had our barbecues, we try to make ourselves known. And our doors are open 24/7, all right? Hopefully, we don't have to close them, okay? And, I'm an advocate for whatever we can get, benefit our department and benefit the town. I think we're well deserving of it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Rob, remind us how you spell your last name.
CHERNUK, first name Rob, R-O-B. Thank you.
I'm Kim Palatli, Eastford Road, the last name is Kouatli. I am on the Board of Ed. I've been a resident over 20 years, and I have 3 children that went through the Ashford School. One is at UConn now, one is at E.O. Smith, and the third is graduating this year. What I want to say is thank you for the Board of Finance being on the Board of Ed. I understand the hard decisions you made and Board of Selectmen, all the boards in town. What I'm pleading is to give the town the opportunity to come in and voice, putting forward a budget. It can be adjusted at the public meeting. And I'd love to see the town given that opportunity. They have supported the budgets in the past. And if a cut needed to be made at that time after hearing from the town, I think that would be our best opportunity to see what the people want. I also would like to say, I appreciate everything the fire department does. They've helped my family in general, and specifically as well as the community. So, I know in the past we've talked about cuts. It's not a line item. The Board of Finance gives us a number. Being on the board of that, I know this. We get a number and we decide kind of where those cuts. So, it doesn't have to be the fire department, even if the town budget needs to go down. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak? Go ahead. Yeah.
Rick Quatley, Kouatly, Eastford Road. I wanted to first and foremost thank again everyone that's doing the hard job that I'm so glad I'm not. And also to show a tremendous amount of respect to the fire department and to begin with, my wife's recommendation of helping my family was a chauffeur me to their parking lot so I could take a privately chartered helicopter to Hartford Hospital and everything. So that was a lot of fun. Don't remember it, but in any case, it's beyond just the appreciation for that and what I said last time we were here, which was my hopes, wishes, and dreams that we can support the Board of Education's 2 some odd increase, but it's my plea to our town selectmen and everything that if budgets go forward, there's always ways to be creative. I saw True Leaf or whatever the heck, that Key Leaf or whatever for the first time today, that is going to bring some revenue in. And if there, I know the budgets will be approved and the town can decide what they do internally. My plea to you would be to keep our first responders whole and to find things elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to comment? Okay, we'll turn to our friends on Zoom. If somebody on Zoom would like to comment, please use the hand raise emoji if possible. Anybody? Okay. I think that means nobody wants to comment.
Someone's saying they can't hear. Is that an old
Oh, yeah,
message?
that was earlier. We had a little technical difficulty. But I don't see any hands raised, so I think we'll move on. Thank you. Okay. First item, under new business is select woman's update, if you would like to, Catherine, or we can skip
It's
this.
been a little bit hard to come up for air over the last actually 4 weeks. We have, some trees that need to come down that are part of one of our cemeteries, Route 44. And, they are actually leaning over a person's house. It's the house that looks like a church. And, we thought that it was gonna take $25,000 to bring them down. And, our, Public Works Director was able to find an alternative and get the number down to 8,000. But I expect our pre-budget is going to go over, so I'm just giving you a heads up.
That was it.
That was it. All right. I'm sure we'll hear from you more. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is something that I'm bringing to the table. Discussion of the formation of a Board of Finance committee to find savings opportunities. Hopefully the board members saw this, as part of the agenda. And I wanted to bring this to the table before we get into the budget discussions, because I think that we need to take a longer term view on our budgeting, because we know that we are likely going to face a similar increase on Region 19 next year. We know that, you know, the state budget is a 2-year budget, and we know that there's gonna be another cut to the ECS funding. So we're basically gonna be in the exact same situation next year. And my concern is, I think my hope is that if we can start working now, we can come up with some new ideas and new ways to save some money, so that we don't have to make these kind of hard cuts in this very crunched time period. So I don't think we have to make a decision on this evening. I just wanted to put it out there to the board and hear people's comments. The only other sort of piece of background where I was coming from with this is, every time you get to the budget season, and it's always right around now, someone says to me, well, why doesn't the town and the school share finance, whatever, and pick your thing, like there's always different ideas. And I'm not endorsing that idea, and I know it's an idea that's been explored, or I'm not endorsing it either, I'm just saying, it's an idea that comes up regularly. I know it's been explored in the past, I don't quite know where it landed. But it's basically impossible for us to do something like that. First of all, it's not in our purview per se as a Board of Finance. And it's also, even if it were, or we could somehow coordinate the other boards, you can't do it in a matter of weeks. It has to be a process that would be studied, and you'd have to get input from stakeholders and get everybody on the same page. So that's sort of what made me think about this idea of creating some sort of committee. And it would be representative of the school and the town and potentially the fire department, et cetera. And we would work through the summer and really try to report back by November with some recommendations, and that would come to this board. Then it could go on to the Board of Selectmen, and then we could be positioned hopefully to maybe make some smart choices with the budget for next year. So that's just an idea I wanted to throw out there. Again, I don't expect us to take any action on this evening, but I wanted to kind of plant the seed as an idea and just hear people's on the board, their feedback. So thoughts, anyone? Yeah.
On its face, I think it's a good idea, but I think it should come from the Board of Selectmen's office and not the Board of Finance. It should be a town project, and maybe the school as well. I think I guess as a department head for one of those departments, my concern would be we have people from the public who are asking questions, which they can do at every single meeting. And my phone works, I get voicemails, I have email. I'm more than happy to answer those questions, but I just. That, like I said, on its face, it's a fantastic idea, because that's why I'm sitting on this board right now. I used to sit over there and I didn't like the way things went, so. But I think it needs to come from the government, the more of the upper end side and not the board of finance. I think it kind of puts us, or would put us in a very awkward position as a board.
And I'm open to that, and I don't know,
I mean, I'm all for finding a way to share costs and cuts, and I deal with that every day, so that's just, I think it needs to be I guess maybe, I hate to say this, but a higher level up so that it's a look down. I always tell people, stand back on the table and look at everything, don't just sit at the table.
Yeah, so I'm open to that, and maybe, I have some conversations or attend a board of selectmen meeting to get that conversation started and see what the best way to proceed. And potentially a board of ed meeting as well. Do you want to come?
I was just gonna say, my only thought would be to advocate for maybe a more aggressive time frame for that. So that the recommendations were made maybe in October or September. Because if we're going to, I mean, the Board of Ed starts developing our budget in December and we have turnover with elections in November. So I just feel like if we had it done in a little bit more of an aggressive timeframe, it might be more helpful for actually affecting budgets next year, but I do think it's a good idea.
Great. I don't want to belabor the conversation, but we can kind of move it along. Unless Catherine, did you want to say something?
Yes, I do.
Go right ahead.
I'm a little disappointed that this wasn't discussed with the Board of Selectmen, since ultimately this is where this could end up. Before it was brought before this board, just to understand some of the logistics. Understand, for example, you've got NECOG in here. I serve on the board of NECOG. So I'm privy and involved with whatever they offer for shared services. And we are constantly evaluating what they have. They've got reval services, which were more expensive and not using the same technology as we do. They have animal control, where your animals, if they're picked up, would go way out to where their facility is. And the cost would still be the same. In fact, we do share services with, bear with me, with Willington and with, Stafford, because we use the animal control officer in Stafford. She is our animal control officer. So 3 towns are using her services and possibly 4. I can give you another example. The 5 towns have tried to get together. We've all met a number of times, where Willington and Holland want to build a new animal control facility to the tune of about $5 million. And what they have suggested, and are kind of hoping on, is that Ashford, each of the towns individually, Ashford, Stafford, Willington, Mansfield, I forgot who the other one is, that we all apply for a steep grant, each of us, for $1 million. Okay, we're applying for a steep grant to repave our public works facility. What did happen is with that, and when we look for savings, Chris Abakoff did some sleuthing, and she often does, and found, because we have to, those towns, at least 2 of them, cannot adhere to the new legislation on what your animal facilities are supposed to, what they're supposed to align with. And Chris went in, looked at the legislation really closely, and found a grandfather clause. And our animal control facility, which is closed right now because the split unit got basically hit by lightning or affected by lightning, and some other things, came back with, you know what? We can fix ours for a heck of a lot less. And so on the capital improvement plan, we have $7,500 to fix ours. And that's a big change from going out to get $1 million steep grant that's going to get in the way of other work that we need to have done. So I want you to know that we work on this all the time. And if there's one place we could use some help, it's with our legislators. Right now, there is a bill out there that would make it so that basically, our recreation department wouldn't be able to function. We could never have enough money for them to do that. They want to change the rules about how, who does, background checks. And today, I think we pay about $8.50, maybe not even up to 10 for a background check, full background check through a group. It's a kind of a coaches organization or whatever, they're affiliated with it. And what the state is talking about will cost us at least $45 to $50 a background check. That's all the coaches, all of the adults working with the kids, all of that. Everybody has to be over 18. You can't have anybody under 18. We could use some help with you pushing back on some of this and also helping us with our revenue stream. So, we try to be everywhere we can be. I know, Bill, you follow the legislation very closely. And I believe Roger is also looking at it. And, we could use help there. We know within our own realms, just like the school does, how to save money, the regionalization of the schools, the grammar schools, if you will, K through 8, was looked at, and it was going to cost us $2 million more? So we know that. What you could help with is Region 19, talking about doing a rolling average instead of the spikes we have each, every couple of years in terms of, just like this year, we're in the barrel. And so that kind of help would be great. But that means you have to be involved in some other areas. And again, as far as, and I don't want to say this badly, but laymen from the community coming in and saying, wow, we could do this. I hear that all the time. Okay, and we talk about some of the things that come up, but we're not getting a lot of real meaty stuff to work on. And that also takes a concerted effort when you do grab onto one of those ideas. Regionalization of the schools, that you have to have a legislative change for that. Okay, thinking about having a town administrator, having a charter, all of these things. Those are things that we look at and we're trying to use or apply in our own town. So I just wanted to be clear that, we already look at cost savings. One of the things we've done over the years is we've been penny wise and pound foolish. For example, until a few years ago, we had no plan for maintaining these buildings, none. This building went up, no plan for maintaining it at all. And so we did that. We used some ARPA money and went out and found out what the issues were with all of our buildings. Happened to be during COVID, which was great, because then we found out, hey, we can use money we can get, mini split units for heat and air conditioning. We put them in, these were cost saving ideas, and we made the investment by using ARPA funds, which we had available to us. So again, I'm a little leery about having a group that goes and pulls this together, and then when we get to the end of it, it's then taken to the Board of Selectmen, and basically it comes across like, you're going to tell us what we should be changing. And the reality is, you're not sitting in the seats that we're sitting in.
Right, and I don't want to belabor it, it was an idea, and I will reach out to you and we can have a conversation.
That
about
would be
what
great,
makes-
and come and
what
talk
makes
with the
sense.
selectmen. It'd be good if you can do that before posting these things.
Sure. Okay,
So we can all be on the same page at the same time.
understood. Okay, next item on the agenda is reviewing the mill rate calculation. So I distributed a document today. I don't know, I lose track. With what the mill rate looks like in various scenarios. There's a scenario A, B, C, and D. And the latest document includes the latest number from Region 19, which, as I mentioned, the latest number is a 9.56% increase. So this document, though, does not reflect new numbers that were distributed by Catherine, the first select woman later or this evening. So I don't know how useful it is to have a conversation about these calculations if we don't know what the new proposal from the first select woman is.
If I could add, why don't you move this lower on the agenda after that presentation, and then do you have your spreadsheet that you can plunk in the numbers?
Yes, I
Because I
will
know
be
you're
able to
Johnny
do
on the
that.
spot with that, that's
Yes,
good.
yes, I will be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's go to the next item, which is discussion and possible action regarding the 25-26 general government and Ashford school budgets. And I would just like to start with the general government, because we got new numbers.
And I have, anybody who doesn't have a copy of the summary. Or
get a hard copy?
Sure.
Thank you very much. I might go in. Appreciate it.
And I was I was a printing company of one while I was doing these.
Thank you.
I'm gonna find your document and share it on the screen.
Okay, would you like me to take it through? It's not very long.
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm just gonna read it. The Board of Selectmen further reduced the proposed 2025-2026 general government budget during their meeting of March 18th. The revised general budget request is $4,141,148, which is an increase of $98,330 or 2.43% over the 2024-25 budget. There's detailed system reports if you'd like to look at them. There's the 20 copies. Okay, summary. We restored 69,000 of the 73,000 originally requested by the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department due to public safety concerns. I would like to thank the chief and the fire department for taking a good look at the original request they had for 73,000 and finding a way to pare it back without losing staff. That was what we wanted. And as a personal comment, there's a big difference between having our local EMTs and fire department personnel come to your house when there is an emergency and having to wait for that kind of staff from another town. Those minutes are precious, and if it even saves one life, it's worth it. Number two, we further reduced part-time support in the selectman's office and tax collector and highway staff departments. We were looking to have a clerk, a part-time clerk in the selectman's office. We've reduced the amount available to do that down to $5,000, which is, we may or may not be able to get someone. We reduced the senior center and municipal agent for the elderly free services and programs. We already have for our senior center, we have implemented this year kind of a rolling budget for the pay to play, pay to participate, where the revenues for those go back into the budget. They can keep replenishing and coming up with new things to work with. And then we cut the ones that were it was $12,500. We cut it down to $6,500 for the free programs that we offer. So those are things like, we've got the birthday parties. We've got a lot of things that pull the senior community together. And we invite the public in as well. Usually we have a speaker for those kinds of events, and we have to pay for them. We've had fiddlers come in. They're all delightful events, and so we're cutting back on that. We restructured parks and recreation by separating parks maintenance from recreation activities. For parks, we moved all parks-related maintenance to town properties. And we reduced the recreation fund transfer from 118,997 to 7,860. To do so, we changed the director position from a full-time $54,610 to part-time at $40,000, which is about 26 to 28 hours a week at about $25 an hour. Commensurate with reduced responsibilities because no longer managing the parks. A lot of that parks maintenance is contracted. We have a mower, this person who mows this contracted. We have insect what do you call it, prevention, if you will. And we have other activities that are park maintenance. And then we reduced other professional services, which is pay to play line. Quite down. And we are doing the same thing as, we will do the same thing as we're doing with the senior center, which is, changed it to a revolving self-sustaining account, as was discussed last year. I brought this up last year. We hadn't implemented it yet. And that needs a special kind of, monitoring. We reduced program expense, which are the activities and events offered free to the public. I can't remember what the number was. It was fairly high, to $5,500, which will only cover a reduced number of summer concerts, a band for Ashford Family Day, and the holiday carol sing. What we did do is, as we were looking at what these two line items had in them, was kind of a mix. They really should have been apportioned out better, so that the pay to play is over on one side, and the revolving account for activities is on the other side. I'm sorry, not the pay to play is a revolving account. And the other would be that we had to start limiting what we can spend on the freebies, so to speak. One of the things that we had was the Parks and Rec were cooking for some of these events, not the ones, for Family Day, they're cooking. We had it cost $1,200 to have the free skate over at Bolton Riding, I'm sorry, I used to go there, Bolton Riding Academy, Bolton Ice Skating. It was $1,200, it was for 1 hour, and it was free to the community. Okay, they can't do that way, that's too much money coming out of there, and so this has been reduced down. And
I did attend that free skate.
I'm sorry,
I did benefit from that free skate. Sorry.
if we can get a discount on it, great, but the reality is we should try to work some deals where people can purchase tickets. Also, I watched on Facebook and saw that there were some people who went over and it was already packed and they couldn't get in.
It's true. It was-
Yeah, so this would be, you're signing up, you're paying for it, whatever, if we can get a reduced rate, great. But this is where we had to go, and on that, director position, we also eliminated benefits, as it's now, it would now be a part-time position. So, that's where we are. And we were able to get it down to 2.43% of an increase, which I hope will help in what you're doing with your calculations. And I kind of don't want to look at it anymore.
I don't blame you. Okay, so board members, who has questions? I'm sure you must have questions about this.
The detailed budgets are good.
Looks like Paul wants a detailed budget.
I do, on a budget, but,
And this is the general government budget. What we had to do, because of how the system works, and to make sure that we could come up with the total just for general government, our treasurer had to produce these separately. So that's why they're printed separately, but you're welcome to whatever copies you want.
Catherine, I just have, I guess, two questions. Maybe a question and a concern. I know that we've had some discussion of some people leaving, so is some of the savings possibly gonna be through attrition?
We cannot discuss those are, it's privileged communication.
Oh, but we don't know about it, but there's no savings through attrition whatsoever.
At this point in time, we're not
Okay.
sure if we would have the savings.
Okay, and then,
Because you can say attrition, but you still might need a person.
right, well, you're gonna need a.
But we don't want to talk about our employees, so.
And then the other part of that is, because I know what goes on in those offices that we're cutting, specifically the selectman's office and the tax collector's office. Did they indicate that they think they're gonna be able to do okay with that? Because that does have an impact on revenue, especially the tax collector's office, they need help.
The tax collector's office, we intend to hire a new tax collector. And that tax collector, one would come in at a slightly lower rate. And what we did was, when you look at the tax collector's office, what they had, I remember last year, this was kind of felt like a shell game trying to move the things around. And what I found is the help that was needed was not needed. And so what we need will depend on the tax collector we hire. We expect to hire an experienced tax collector, who knows how to do their stuff. And we're also hoping there'll be a fresh view. Every time you bring somebody new in, and we've had remarkable success with the people we have brought in, they take a fresh look at what's going on and they modify it to fit.
Okay, that's all.
Thank you for the question, John.
Any other questions for Catherine? I have a question. So in terms of the item number 2 on your list, Catherine, the further reduced part-time support.
Yep.
So in the selectman's office, I'm just looking at the actual budget document. So it looks like this is coming out of the selectman's clerk line item.
Yes,
So there was a budget of
last year,
5,000.
this year, it was, and you gotta understand something, it was 36,000 a year, 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
fiscal year.
So when we moved resources, actually, we moved monies to support the tax collector's office and the assessor's office, and I can't remember what the third one was. We moved monies out of the position and moved the monies into these other part-time positions. And again, I found that, and at least in the tax collector's office, it wasn't used. So when we brought revision 1, I guess, to you, we had brought it back up to 18,000. Okay, from the 11,000 that's there now, 11,000 and change for this year. We brought it up to 18,000, thinking, okay, we're talking about, maybe, like 7 hours a week. I can't remember what the total was. And, when it came to doing these cuts, we went, we can't afford it. So we brought it down to 5,000, which you don't see are all the iterations in between. And actually, I thought about trying to show some of that or speak to some of that, and I went, I don't care about that anymore. I don't care about what you have in front of you right now.
And I can see the tax collector aid or assistant wages. That was $18,000
May I have one?
that's come out. The only one that I can't decipher
you.
is the highway staff department.
That's
What is-
part-time work in the highway staff. Don't see that coming down. It may have come down from where we had our budget.
No, I just don't know what line item that is.
Oh, it's down under highway, HWY.
Okay, so
What
like-
page are you on?
Let me see if I
I will
find
tell
it.
you when I get there.
Here it is. It's on page,
There's just so
10.
many highway related sections. There's
it's
highway,
on
there's highway roads. there's
part-time
highway-
wages. It's on page 10, second from the top.
So that's a $5,000 cut.
Yes.
Okay.
And you'll see what we had before. These are like summer help. Some of the other areas where we have a part-time person come in. It's not a regular part-time.
Okay.
So last year we had 15,000 and now we'll have 5.
Yeah.
On the waiting.
Oh, thank you. Let's see. Why can't I see them? Here. Okay, thank you. What do people think about, and just to be, so the selectman's clerk, there's no one in that position right now.
No, we've advertised it and we were about to start interviewing.
And the tax collector assistant, there's no one in that position.
She had used someone, I don't know if she still calls on that person, but
But
what
it
we've
was
seen is that what they spend, $2,000?
Right. Very.
So far?
So those are two relatively, I'll leave it at that. We're not impacting somebody who's full-time employed there.
Well, I will tell you that when it comes to the selectman's office, we have a situation where, we had an employee out for better part of 5 weeks and I had to cover.
Mhm. I know that happened. And the highway staff change you're saying is there are part-time people that get pulled in.
And we talked with our, public works director.
What are board members' thoughts about the changes with the rec department? Because I think those are pretty significant.
And those were done with the commissioner, the chair. For that,
Oh,
for
okay,
Parks and Rec. We didn't do any of these in a vacuum.
okay. Well, that's good to know. I guess my question on the Parks and Rec, that seems very significant to me, and I think it's a program that people really. They interact with a lot, if there's a lot of programming, so people will have feelings about that potentially. So I'm curious, you mentioned reducing. Reduced number of summer concerts.
I'm
Do we
assuming,
anticipate a reduced number of programs as well? With this, or would we be able to maintain the gymnastics and the this and the that?
so people pay to play.
Mhm.
This is how it works, and this is how it would work, and this is how it works at the senior center. Well, let's just say we have it, they sign up for yoga. Okay, and we have someone who comes in and does the yoga. And that person gets paid to do it. One of the things that ought to change is that we actually allow drop-ins, or the yoga program does. Instead of, if you're gonna be in a 6-week yoga program, pay for 6 weeks. Okay, that's just one of the things where you don't have the number of people coming in that you thought you were going to, but you still have to pay that yoga instructor the same amount. And you don't have enough money offsetting it. So that's a good example. Another one is baseball. No, I'm sorry, basketball. So we found out that basketball, we charge $85, I guess. I can't remember the age range, $85 for someone to play basketball. And that's supposed to cover, shirts and things. It wasn't covering trophies. And actually, I don't even know that it was I think it was covering shirts. Wasn't covering trophies or medals or anything like that. And that was coming out of the other fund. And the other towns are charging anywhere between 100 and 120. So one of the things we've asked for over the years is to ensure that the recreation is bringing in enough revenue to sustain their program. And I think that every year, maybe not this year, the Board of Finance has asked about Parks and Rec program. Because we've lost money or whatever, they were only bringing in, they were bringing in $35,000 of revenue, but spending more, much more. And again, self-sustaining means you pay to play. And what they need to do is they need to look at the costs, what the prices are that we're charging. because we can't afford to do it the way we're doing it. And, you know, in my heart of hearts, I don't wanna charge them anything. But the reality is there's a lot of work that goes into it, and now we have that whole business with the coaches. And any other staff, referees or whatever, they're working with the kids, have to go through a background check. And that background check has to be, if the legislation passed, there's gonna have to be done through a particular, I think, a state company or a state agency or something. And it's gonna cost us the $45, when before it was a heck of a lot less.
So is,
And by the way, we were also using people who were not 18 years old. Okay, with some supervision.
so is it maybe fair to say then that the changes to the Parks and Recreation program make it more self-sustaining?
That's the approach that we're taking. I do think it's going to be impacted by the change. But where else do you want to impact? Well, we looked at everything we could look at. And public safety? Don't want impact. And the recreation director is fully aware. This is not a surprise.
So other questions from the board? So I can tell you where this lands us with this number. So. So with a general government budget of $4,141,148, which is a 2.43% increase over the previous year. And then an Ashford school budget of 8.8 million, which is a 2.5% increase. And then a Region 19 budget of 4.16 million, which is a 9.56% increase. Then that also assumes grants, fees, and other income of $4,129,232. Have there been any adjustments, Catherine, to the revenue side since last week? Or are we
I
sticking
don't
with?
think so. Sherry, are you on?
No, there weren't any changes.
Okay, so we're sticking with the number we had. So, I'm gonna stop sharing this. So where that puts us is a mill rate of 36.531, which would be a 2.17 mill increase. Or a 6.31% increase.
Could you say the mill number again?
36.531,
Yeah, and
which is a 2.17 mill increase. Or 6.31%.
thank you.
So,
Christina, before we move on, I just have a really weird question. I have a question as I'm thumbing through this general budget here. Transfer station, we have a line item for $5,000 of printing and binding. What are we printing and binding at the transfer station?
I cannot recall. Sherry, do you happen to know? I hate to put you on the spot.
Last year they spent $1,000. This year so far they spent $21. I mean, if they're printing their signs, but those are all metal signs, so nobody's printing them. I mean, somebody is, but.
We gotta do the transfer station, the ticket, your passes.
We're going to be issuing new stickers
Okay,
and everything that goes with them, punch cards,
okay.
stickers, whatever.
Okay.
And.
Good.
good, Judy.
What is the medium home based on? What?
So the medium home value, that I got from the assessor is $167,440.
We are not a rich community.
But, you know, there are definitely houses and properties worth a lot more, and there are properties worth a lot less, and we also don't take into account the motor vehicle, I didn't do math on motor vehicles, I feel like there's more variability there, it'd be harder to get a representation.
And was that the median home value? Is that, I'm sorry, is that with the 70% or is that with the 100%?
70.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Okay. Did she say median home, median?
I don't know, Sherry, what did you just say? Or lit,
I'm thinking that that's gotta be 70%.
you think it's 70%?
This is
Yeah,
Lynn,
so that's-
Christina. That's 70%.
Thank you,
Okay.
Lynn.
There you
Thanks,
go.
Lynn.
Okay, we're a little better off than I thought.
Okay, before we talk about that mill rate and where that lands us, I do want to give the board the chance to ask any additional questions about the school budget side, if anybody has any additional questions.
I do.
Go right ahead, Pam.
For clarification, I went through the budget and we have a director for special ed. We've got a secretary for special ed. We've got an admin superintendent with a salary of 56,500. That's not our superintendent, right?
No,
Who is that?
her name is Jen Truex.
Is
She's in
she-
the Central office at the school. So
Wh-
she provides support to the superintendent and to the Board of Education.
So she's she's an assistant then,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, I think it gets confusing because we see admin and we think school administration.
Well,
But what it's referring to is an administrative assistant.
Correct.
Okay.
essentially.
Yes.
but then it has administrative assistant, superintendent, CO right below it. That's like two of them. On page 7. Do you want to see it?
Yes, sorry, I forgot. my
It's
printout.
yellow. What is that?
This is Bob Carroll. I can answer that question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
The superintendent holds two positions. She's mainly the director of special education. And then she gets the $56,000 stipend, if you will, to act as superintendent.
So then
So the
she's
top line
collecting.
Is the superintendent's
Mhm.
salary, and then the line below it is the admin assistant salary.
Okay, and then we go back to that page before that I had asked you about the director for special ed. So then you're saying the superintendent is also acting in that capacity?
Yes, so she
Okay.
receives, she basically, so we used to have a superintendent and a director of special ed. We combined those into one position,
Mhm.
One person.
one person, sorry.
Right, no, I
We
understood.
gave 2 jobs to one person, which was about a $90,000 cost savings on our
Okay.
budget at the time that we did it. But what Cindy Ford asked us to do when we did that was to keep them separate. If the Board of Education were ever to decide we were unhappy with her as
Mhm.
superintendent,
Mhm.
she didn't want to also lose her director of special ed position. So they are handled as, the superintendent duties are handled as an additional duty that she does separate from her director of special ed responsibilities. So
Yeah.
they are 2 different line items.
Okay,
That's
then
one position.
to go on, I've got more. We've got a principal.
Yes,
We have a principal's assistant. And then it says office staff principal. Who is that?
so we have 2, well, is it 1.5 or 2 people in the front office of the school? So what those are those 1.5 people. So, one person is full-time, one person is part-time. So when you come into the school, everyone has to be checked in, dealt with, managed, kids get notes, kids leave early, parents interact. There is a full-time person and a part-time person who juggle those responsibilities. So answering the phones in the main office, providing that face-to-face interaction, monitoring who comes in and out of the building, helping with badging, helping kids leave early, helping kids arrive late, all of that. So that's 1.5 people that do that.
So, okay, so that's for the principal.
And can I interject, because you
Sure.
just brought, I mean, it. So I want to clarify for the rest of the board, because I didn't understand that. We have a principal. We have an assistant principal,
Yes,
okay, and then the office staff line is 1.5 people.
correct.
Who's the assistant principal?
David.
She's right here in the flag.
I know the principal, but. And we have met, I guess.
Okay,
Thank you, Pat.
you're welcome. Then I can go on. So we also have a vice principal.
No. We have an assistant principal.
Okay, just the
That's just
assistant.
one.
Okay, to me, looking at all of this, the staff that you have for a student population of under 400 kids, it seems somewhat redundant, some of these positions. When we talk about cutting the budget, all we ever hear up here is teachers are going to be cut. I'm sorry, this isn't personal. I don't understand why such a small school needs an assistant principal.
So, this has been, I think comes up every year, and it's been discussed, repeatedly, so I'll explain it again. It does raise a lot of questions.
Mhm.
This goes under the category of one of those unfunded mandates from the state. The state requires extensive teacher evaluations. So is it 3 times a year? And so that is a newer requirement. And prior to that requirement, Ashford School did not have an assistant principal. We had a full-time superintendent. So we reduced from a full-time superintendent to a part-time superintendent at that time in order to pay for an assistant principal position to be added to our staff. Essentially, Polly and David, the principal and assistant principal, share the majority of this evaluation, these evaluation requirements. So the teachers in the building have to be evaluated 3 times a year, depending on their tenure and depending on all kinds of different factors. And it's a very complicated state mandated process that requires, I think we talked recently about the number of hours that you guys spend a year on that. Do you remember off the top of your head? No, I mean.
Most of the time it's 56.
Right, so it's
Each.
right for
Mhm.
each of them. So the, when that evaluation process became a requirement was when we realized we needed an assistant principal. So it has to do with a lot of the things that are required by the state for us to do. And then on top of that, David, as an assistant principal, handles discipline and student behaviors and, lots of other things, but, that is why we added an assistant principal, I don't know, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. Quite a while ago, we added that when we, reduced the superintendent position to a part-time position.
And I called Willington School and I called Mansfield to speak to them. Mansfield from K to 8 has just under 1,000 students, so twice what we have. They've got a principal, assistant principal, and I guess all of Mansfield shares a superintendent,
Yes.
I think. So they don't have a superintendent in the building with them. They have twice as many students as we do and less administration up there. They told me,
Yeah, which school?
well, she told me.
Which school did you call?
Right, I
Yeah,
believe
which
every
school?
building has
Oh.
has a principal and an assistant principal in Mansfield.
Each of their buildings.
Right.
Oh,
every-
okay.
Yeah. You've been talking to
Okay.
one building.
Can I speak?
Multiple. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead. Go ahead.
Someone asked to speak. Oh, hi,
Okay,
Cindy.
it's Cindy.
Go ahead,
Hi.
Cindy.
Hi.
Yeah, I meet with those superintendents on a regular basis. In each building, they have a principal. In the middle school, they have a principal and an assistant principal. So yes, they have 3, and yeah, it's 1,000 students for those 2 separate buildings.
Cause they don't have, like, we're K-8. Mansfield
Yes.
has an elementary school and then a middle school.
Okay,
Correct.
they did not specify
Yeah,
that when I
And
was
they actually have
talking
2
to her.
elementary
Yeah, I
Not
think
very
that,
consolidated. And
Okay.
that's part of their cost savings
Right.
measure. They shut down 2 schools and built a new one, and they did consolidate and, they did save some money as a result, but.
And
and
Wellington has very similar population as we do. And they
Right.
have 2 buildings just because that's what they're made up of, is 2 buildings. They don't have one building big enough to house both pre-K through 8. So they have the 2 separate buildings and they have an administrator in each building. But they also, I believe, have a curriculum person, if I'm not,
And a full-time superintendent.
and a full-time
each
superintendent,
school has a
and
full-time, yeah.
and a full-time superintendent and a full-time director of pupil services.
Okay, all right, I just needed clarification on that because just looking at it on the surface, it seems like a lot of redundancy, so I just needed it explained, that's all. And thank you.
I thank you for those questions, Pam. Do we have questions, Judy?
No, I've got nothing on that for kinetic equipment. It says that it's not, schools are not mandated to have a vice principal.
That's
But the
correct.
president, but the presence of the assistant principal is common and often seen as beneficial.
And so the mandate that Dan is referring to isn't about the position.
Right.
It's about
It's
the
mandated.
job
The
of
duties.
what they have to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's not enough time in the day for one person to do it. And also, if you do that, that person is committed to doing those evaluations, for lack of a better term. Now you have nobody to do pupil discipline or other stuff.
Right.
So I understand that. I can't say I'm happy with the cost, I'm just saying.
It's a certain amount of separation of responsibility
Correct.
as well.
Mhm.
Any other questions about the school budget? Okay, so going back to the mill rate conversation, what we're looking at, if we were to accept the numbers that we have tonight, so a 2.43% increase for the general government, a 2.5% increase for the school, 9.56% for Region 19. Again, would equate to a 36.531 mill rate. Yes.
Oh, and what did you say the mill rate was going to be?
36.531. So let me just say, go ahead, Catherine.
Are you able to, if a house is valued at 100,000? Are you able to say what the increase would be in their taxes? And I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Because typically what we do is, well, certainly this happened in the past, is we go, okay, everybody. Something goes out in a citizen and it says, okay, based upon about a house valued at 100,000.
Right.
This is what your increase in
just move
taxes.
the decimal point.
It would go up $217.
So you just, yeah, and you just
For
move the
100,000.
decimal point, so,
Right.
yeah, so $3,653 for every $100,000 of assessed value. That makes sense.
Yeah, most people are looking at how much is it gonna go up?
Right.
What's the difference?
So a 6.31% increase in the mill rate, I think is still a big ask. However, looking at these numbers, don't think that we could go much lower without truly impacting services across the board. And I think we are impacting services with what we're considering. We're talking about 2 teachers in the school. We're talking about a significant rollback for Parks and Rec. Limiting the support that various departments in the town hall have. So these are real impacts.
And even what we can offer our seniors as
Right,
well.
right. So what do we think? Do we want to send this? And I also want to just remind folks, because I think, and I'm guilty of this too, sort of thinking referendum. We have several steps before we get there. We have a public hearing, as it was noted by folks who commented. We have a public hearing where people will give us feedback. And we can adjust from there. I know we don't want to, because I know it screws everybody up. But if we didn't even keep the possibility open, then why would we have a public hearing, right? It's there for a reason. And then after that, there is a town meeting that then adjourns to referendum. So how do we feel as a board with moving forward with the numbers presented this evening to a public hearing?
I think we have to. I mean, what more can they do?
I'm thinking a trip out of the country.
I'm hoping to be
sorry, did I say it out
deported to
loud?
Canada. Take me away.
Don't wanna go.
Nowhere is safe, I don't think.
I think. Think that, everybody's done a lot of work to try to get here, and, you know, it's unfortunate that we have to get to this point, but I don't know that if we go any further without public input, I think that's a bad idea. I think the young lady was right, that when we go to public hearing, we can listen to what they say and take it in, and, you know, we have to also consider that there's gonna be a lot of people who may not be at that public hearing that we do still have to represent, but I think we've done a really good job. We've asked a lot of really tough questions. But, you know, like I said, I'm not happy with the amount, nothing personal, they might get paid, but, we also need to keep people who are experienced and they do a good job. I don't know, and then from the other side, from the government side, I don't know what else we can really do. Without impacting services dramatically.
Right. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
What is your motion?
My motion is to accept the budget of the town and the school.
Anybody like to second that motion?
I'll second.
He's seconded. And just to clarify, the motion is to approve a general government budget with a 2.43% increase. And an Ashford school budget with a 2.5% increase. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. We have a unanimously approved budget.
And it's always great to have unanimous. Now, if I could make a suggestion that you hold the public hearing in Milton. Because I suspect there's gonna be a lot of people there.
Man, it's getting really hot.
Just a conversation, makes it hot.
You
But
might
I,
kind of take out.
I do suggest you hold it there. Be more comfortable for everybody. And you can fit more people in. There'll probably be a lot of people who want to participate.
Who has the keys to get into that building? Okay.
Get your keys.
Okay. Well, that's great. I'm glad we were able to make the decision this evening, and I'm glad that we were able to make it unanimous. And I just want to say, I really, really appreciate the Board of Ed, the school administrators, the Board of Selectmen, Catherine, Sherry, Lynn, the assessor. We had a lot of moving pieces this year, and I think I am pleased with just how everybody sort of took it one step at a time, and we'll continue to do that. So the next step is the public hearing, and we'll see where we end up.
Well, what I was going to suggest, because I think, Chris Abakoff has probably talked to you about a bit of a time constraints that you can encounter in terms of getting your public notice out and in the paper. So you may want to have a motion to say that this is what you're taking to public hearing, and actually she may have sent you the motion, I don't know, for,
Yeah, I
or-
talked to her about it.
You may
and-
want to do it tonight and not wait till like next Thursday, so that you can send this off with that motion. Send it off, because it'll say what time, what day, what location, all of that. So that
Well-
you don't get caught in a bind, because the absolute last day to get it out there in time is next Thursday at the latest.
Well, no, so I talked to Chris about it,
Okay.
and I can get out the notice on Friday, March 28th, and have it be in time. So
Okay.
I would like to wait, just because you never know, something might change with the numbers between now and next week. And something might happen with the state budget. And we also still have to talk about the capital improvement budget.
Oh.
So
Yeah, that's all.
we haven't,
Yes.
we haven't approved that yet. So,
Region 19's numbers, not.
and that's right, Region 19 is the other piece
Yeah.
too. That we won't know until Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah,
Um,
so it's hard to have the public hearing without that number, because I know we've had it before, we've had it.
Well, no, the public hearing would certainly be after, it's just. We want, to me, I think we need to give, I don't foresee us necessarily having a vote regarding the budget next week, because we voted now.
Right.
It's just. I want to give us time just in case something happens. And I was gonna bring the public hearing notice to the meeting, and we can actually approve that, which we haven't done in the past, but I think.
Yeah, I agree with waiting for the Region 19 to come back next week. In the past, the number has come back during the public hearing. And of course, you have a meeting right after the public hearing normally to make any adjustments that you need to make. And so we were always had somebody on the phone, like waiting to hear from Region 19.
Well, no, we'll still be in that situation. The decision on Tuesday is after their public hearing. But then I believe there's another meeting.
When do they adopt the budget?
April 1st.
April 1st, so we can't wait till then.
Yeah, we can't wait.
So. let's
Right, so
calendar get for that.
Tuesday, March 25th. I was told that they will vote on this 9.56%.
Right.
So then we'll have some confidence going into the meeting on Thursday that number is
Exactly.
somewhat firm.
Right.
But then they could make a revision on April 1st. So, we'll
Which
get,
you'll have in time for the public hearing.
correct,
Right.
which is why the schedule is the way. it is. Okay. All right, moving on. It is very hot. Sorry. And is UConn playing tonight? UConn's not playing tomorrow.
I don't
Okay.
know, what day of the week is it?
Don't know that either.
All right. So the next item on the agenda, before we talk about capital improvement budget, I wanted to talk about the unassigned fund balance and the capital non-recurring fund balance. which I did ask for that info and I have not received it.
Correct.
So I don't know, Sherry, if you can share
I-
that verbally?
You're on.
I apologize for that, Christina. We've been going back and forth with budget numbers and this, that. So the only, expense that it's been taken out of the undesignated was the $80,000 for this current year as of today's date. Your fund balance there for the, capital non-recurring was what, that 300 and something range there that was reported at budget at the audit. So now, since that we got the steep money in for $459,000, add that, so you're at that 800 and change for fund
So the
balance.
CNR fund balance is approximately 800,000.
Yes, I mean, it's
Okay.
right, 830 some, 803, yeah.
And I'm just gonna look up, unless, do you have the unassigned fund balance as of the audit? I don't have that in front of me. I could look it up.
So, hold on, I've got, well, so hold on. You want to continue? I will look on my computer here. I can.
I might get to it first.
That's fine. Oh, I can't get to it because I'm at home and it's on the shared drive.
Okay,
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 why I do.
so as of June 30th, 2024, the general fund's unassigned fund balance was 2,352,308. And that was 14%.
Yep.
Of general fund budgetary expenditures, which we try to keep that percentage between 10 and 15%.
Correct.
So the reason why I'm bringing this up is that we traditionally transfer some amount of that unassigned fund balance into the CNR fund to help build up that account so that we can have capital projects moving forward. So, and we do want, and I know we discussed this, and I don't believe it's in the budget as a line item. So we can
No,
vote,
it's not.
we can vote as a board to add that to the budget. It wouldn't have an impact on the mill rate. It's just transferring money.
If I could ask Sherry a question about that?
Sure.
Sherry, when we have it as a transfer item in the budget, does it increase the budget balance? And in terms of distorting it in any way? It's a
It should be just a transfer, but
in the system when it comes out.
I've got to double
suspect it will
check in the
inflate it.
system.
Yeah,
It should be just a transfer. And basically it should show a transfer just in the capital budget because it'll be a transfer coming in from capital non-recurring, which you don't have a budget for. So it's just transferring from capital non-recurring to CIP. Well, it's undesignated, sorry, undesignated fund balance to capital non-recurring, and then we have another part of the budget that shows going into the budget, so into CIP, sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to copy number.
yeah, my only thinking is that if it's in there as a line item in the budget and it's a transfer in or out, it is treated, it looks like an expense, correct?
Right, but then we explain that it's not an expense.
Unfortunately, what we do is we print the reports from the system, and I don't know if you can keep that line out and have your total.
No.
No,
But if you
it's
look
not,
at
but it shows up on the bottom as a transfer. And I know it's usually historically done after the fact, so it just shows the transfer for auditing purposes. So that's something you just gotta make sure it's explained.
Right, and I will explain that in the letter, that we put together for the public hearing. So again, so we transferred $80,000 from the unassigned fund balance to, was it to CNR?
It's gonna be CNR.
Right. So that was for the transfer station steep project. We had to.
Yes.
It's actually
Yeah.
public works facility. People will think it's just for the one. if they-
Public Works.
Facility.
So the new, if you subtract out the 80,000.
Yep.
The new unassigned fund balance I get is $2,272,308.
Mhm.
Now, typically, we transfer somewhere between 200 to $300,000 to CNR. That's
Mhm.
historically what we've done. So now I'm doing this math very quickly. So if we transferred 250. And if we transfer. I'm trying to figure out the percentages, so. Bear with me. Thank you.
Oh, you open that.
There goes the heating.
So if we were to transfer $300,000 from the unassigned fund balance to the CNR fund, that would leave us with $1,972,308 in the unassigned fund balance, which would be 11.9% of general budgeted expenditures. If we transfer 250,000, we would end up with a percentage of 12.2%.
What did you say the first percentage
The
was,
first
11?
percentage was 11.9% at 300,000 and 12.2% at 250,000. Anybody want to see different numbers? Looking at that, for me, I would want to do the 250. That keeps us at 12.2%. Right there in the middle between 10 and 15.
I like 300 because it kept us at 11.9 with the 12.
Wow. The other thing is.
Split the difference, call it 270 now.
Good.
Gonna work on those negotiating
Yeah.
skills.
So does anybody want to make a motion to transfer? Pick it.
I'll make a motion to transfer 300,000 from unassigned fund balance to capital model current.
Here, all right, somebody else write that down. Okay, so Paul, you said 300. Does anybody want to, second that?
I'll second.
Okay, Jim seconded. The only caveat I would add is that we want that reflected in the budget on the line item. It's 110.9200.59950 sorry, 59960.000.
Okay, I think you're the only one who knows where you are right now.
He knows what it is.
Oh, Sherry, you were talking to Sherry? Okay.
So I just want to make sure that that's going to be reflected in the budget when we put together the package for the public hearing.
Well,
So that it's, so that it's clear that it's part of the budget process, because the whole reason, and the reason for this is because there were questions raised about how we've done these transfers in the past. And this, any kind of transfer that's over 20,000 has to go to town meeting. So we just want to make sure it's included in the budget that goes to town meeting. That's all. Right. Any?
need to vote.
Yes, I
Yeah,
know.
well, we have option going on.
What's happening?
His phone and
It's not a game, it's-
talking.
Okay. All right, so any other discussion on this? All those in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Next, we have the actual capital improvement budget. I will call that up on the, oh, wait, there's somebody in the chat. Thank you. Okay. Oh, just a thank you. Thank you, Cindy. So I will call up that capital plan, just so everybody can be reminded what that is. Okay, so this, and I know Catherine, you did a more detailed document that explained everything. But for this evening, I just wanted to put this in front of folks again so we can be reminded what this is. So this is the capital project plan. It goes across 5 years. We have projects for public works, totaling $243,000. We have costs associated with reval that we budget over every year, and we'll have a reval next year. Oh, that's another thing that's gonna make things interesting next year. The fire department, several projects, totaling $209,000, including a payment for a truck. Ashford School, we've got a bus and $60,000 for a plan to look at the facility, and come up with a plan for ADA, American Disabilities Act compliant doors, and update the windows that are quite old. That's $190,000. And then town projects, ranging from a dog pound, virtual meeting upgrades, the public works facility paving that we discussed, this would be covered by a state grant.
And it shows that 80,000 in there.
So the total on the capital projects is $1,388,709. And the funding for that, you see how it balances out to indicate this does not have any impact on the mill rate. It's covered by funds that we either have or hope to acquire. So $571,651 would come out of that CNR fund that we were just talking about. $73,000 would come via LoSiP, which is a state grant. $60,000 would come out of the school non-lapsing fund, which is the account that they keep their surplus funds from year to year. The fire department is contributing $4,000 towards their projects. And then, and the $80,000 that we talked about for the Public Works transfer station paving. And then the last two items, this Public Works paving is $400,000 in state grants. Which, when do we hear if we got that?
I don't recall.
That's okay.
What day of the week is it?
Yeah. I feel like it was like in a month or so.
Yeah, I think so too.
And then the bar grant, which is a brownfields grant for the Kettle Rock property, which is on 44. This is, would be a project, that would be funded by a grant. If we don't get the grant, we don't do the work. So that, and we don't have to spend any money until we know whether we get the grant.
And the same applies for that steep grant.
Right. So again, these are projects that would not have an impact on the mill rates. That's why we're kind of separating it out from the previous conversation. So we did go through these in depth with Catherine. I just wanted to bring it back up. See if anybody has any additional questions. Now's your chance to ask. All right, would someone be willing to make a motion to approve the 25-26 capital improvement budget as presented?
So. Second.
Please, and Paul. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Jim. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that was unanimous. Almost done, guys. All right, agenda items for the next meeting will just be, hopefully not making any changes to what was approved this evening. Approving a public notice for the public hearing. And just, feedback from the community and folks, obviously we'll hear what happened this evening. Perhaps they'll want to come talk to us next week. I don't think there's anything else that we need to cover next week, since we got through it all this evening. Right? Okay. Remarks for the good of the board. This meeting went a lot better than I expected. I didn't know, this is a very tough situation, and it was, I know that none of this is done lightly, none of it, from any point of view. There's real, hardship, tough choices. It's painful all around. And I will do my best as the chair of this board to communicate to the town the hard work that went into these budgets. I do believe that they need to be supported, and I don't think people in this community would want further cuts. I think we've made it, we've really gotten really far with our budgets this year, so just really appreciate everybody's time, everybody's patience, everybody's thoughtful questions and doing research. That's fantastic. So I just appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'll
Paul
second
made
that.
motion, Sam second, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Just so you know, again, cannot talk about.
Oh, no.
That's one, the other thing is Tristan, and then there, I'm gonna refill some of the. I wasn't dodging it.